Speaker, in just 14 trips, the Prime Minister has spent nearly $1 million on in-flight catering at taxpayers' expense. Meanwhile, 2 in 5 Canadians struggle to put food on the table, and a record 2.2 million Canadians relied on the food bank in a single month. Liberal inflationary spending, red tape, and anti-development policies are driving up costs and weakening our economy. And it is always Canadians who are left paying for Liberal waste. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister reverse his costly policies that caused this crisis so Canadians can afford to live again?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm uncertain where that member has been over the last number of years, but I want to give them one good example of how this government stood up for Saskatchewan when 14 of them sat on their hands for 10 long years, Mr. Speaker. I am talking to the Saskatchewan Conservative MP caucus. Why didn't you defend this canola deal? Why didn't you stand up?
No, I don't. I'm not involved in the canola deal. Again, a reminder to go through the chair. The member may continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is, why didn't they stand up for Saskatchewan and the canola deal that brought billions to the Saskatchewan producers? Again, they sat on their hands doing nothing.
The honourable member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Well, Mr. Speaker, food affordability is so terrible that there is scurvy in that member's riding. And we can't forget that this Prime Minister is the one who said affordability is the best that it's been in over a decade. But you know what? He's showing up at the G7 as the only leader who has caused a recession in his own country. That is his Liberal government's record. Inflationary spending, red tape, and anti-development policies are driving up costs. It's not global factors. It is the Liberal choices that Canadians can't afford. When will this government stop making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, it would be really nice if I saw one Conservative visit Northern Saskatchewan to deal with the issues that we are struggling with, Mr. Speaker. Now, I would point out every time we have an opportunity to help my riding and many other ridings across this country, whether it's a food and essential benefit, the $10 a day daycare, Mr. Speaker, the food program for the schools, every single time we make initiatives, they vote against it, Mr. Speaker. So we'll take no lessons on helping any region in Saskatchewan that feels that they're underserved. We will represent all of Canadians and stand up for them forever, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate, it's not nice, but we're in a recession and Canadians feel it. Some families spend over 120% of their income on food and housing alone. Some people even have to borrow to eat. And the reality is that these Liberal programs aren't working and that more Liberals are in charge, the more things cost. Today, the Prime Minister is going to the G7 as the only person who has plunged their own country into a recession. He likes to make inspiring and fancy speeches abroad, but can he not admit that families have to pay the price? Thank you very much. On last June 9th, Canadians received their first payment for the grocery and essentials benefit. We're talking about millions of Canadians who received assistance to buy groceries. And we're very proud to help Canadians with this challenge. And Canadians are brave, and they're going to work with us to rebuild our economy, which is solid and responsible. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, in Quebec, average annual income is $67,000, and I received a picture of this famous grocery benefit. For a Quebec worker that earns $67,000 a year, he received $11.98. $11.98 to help him pay for groceries. Families can no longer afford groceries, rent, and gas, and the Liberals have plunged this country into a recession. Can this Prime Minister take advantage of his time with the G7 to take advice from all the other countries that are not in a recession? I think it could help. The Honourable Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, the question from my colleague allows me to talk about the announcement we made last week. We're talking about $1 billion we're investing in food infrastructure to build food markets and more accessible hubs for Canadians. We are also going to enhance competitiveness. We're going to do this because it's important, and yes, Canadians need ongoing support. We have done this, and they're behind us because they also want us to rebuild our country in an autonomous and responsible fashion. Thank you.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Today, the Prime Minister arrives at the G7 as the one and only leader who has led his country into a recession. Now, this is what that looks like. 2 in 5 Canadians struggle to be able to afford to feed themselves. Full-time workers are living in RVs or at Tim Hortons, and food bank use has hit an all-time high. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister spends $1 million on luxury in-flight catering that includes things like Normandy buttercups and fine wines and braised beef. So my question is very simple. When will the Prime Minister acknowledge the reality that so many Canadians face and reverse his policy so that they can afford to live again?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that member of Parliament has risen before to ask questions like this, but I would ask her a question, and that question is, why does she keep voting against the very people in Alberta that are asking for a hand up? In fact, the National School Food Program in Alberta feeds 58,000 children, Mr. Speaker, and parents are saving up to $13,700 a year per child. All things that member has voted against.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
I think what that member meant to highlight was the fact that under this government, child poverty rates have increased year after year after year for the last 3. And that dramatically impacts the people of my riding in Lethbridge, Alberta. Dramatically. And it means that seniors in this country are living at Tim Hortons, and it means that full-time workers are living out of their IVs. So why does this government turn a blind eye to the reality of Canadians while it's living high on the horse? Why doesn't it reverse its policy so that Canadians can finally afford to live again?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, if you check Hansard, you'll find that member is on record saying that parents don't want help. And in fact, what I hear from Canadians, including Albertans, who write to me as the Minister of Jobs and Families, is let's stand up for each other. Let's make sure not one kid goes hungry, no matter if their parent is out of work, no matter if their family is struggling, because circumstances are unfortunate for some families, but what's most Canadian is the value of helping each other.
The honourable member for Nanaimo, ladies.
I'll remind that member that today the Prime Minister is at the G7 as the only leader in the G20 who has caused a recession in his own country, technical or otherwise. He says the data can be uneven. What is not uneven is the pain, Mr. Speaker. Food bank use is at record levels while 2 in 5 struggle to eat, and full-time workers live in people's driveways because a paycheck no longer buys a home. All while the Prime Minister's in-flight catering bill for just 14 trips could feed a family for 55 years. When will this Prime Minister reverse his costly policies and make good on his announcements so Canadians can afford to live again?
Again, before we go to the answer, I just want to remind members that even if certain things are in the news, we should not mention the presence or absence of members. The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is attending the G7 today, and he's attending
I'm trying very hard to apply the rules, but members are making it very difficult. We don't need to talk about location. The Honourable Minister, please.
Speaker, Canada is represented at the G7 today as a country that has hit its NATO 2% target this year, as a country that has attracted foreign direct investment at twice the rate of our nearest G7 countries. And as someone who as a country that has secured 20 economic and defense agreements over 4 continents, British Columbians like to see this growth. This is Canada.